Now going over to the culture part of the podcast, you have Disney survey showing leftist politics have caused permanent damage to the brand. This according to a Rasmuss poll. Now this is thanks to the sleuth reporting at the Daily Wire, which they claim to be the fastest growing conservative media company, headquartered out in Nashville, Tennessee, prominently known pretty much for Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, Candace Owens, I think being the top, Jeremy Boring. Those are the top personalities that people usually see on social media that have probably the biggest contributing factor why they've grown so much. Now, it looks like according to this report, the poll finds that more than 60% of Republicans view Disney unfavorably. And remember, in the United States, presidential elections are won by thin margins. It's about 50-50 in terms of Democrats and Republicans. I know there's independents as well. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, just kind of how the game is set up, the odds of the independent candidate ever getting anywhere is pretty slim, to say the least. Now, this article noted that of this, just over 60% of Republicans have an unfavorable opinion of Disney, including 35 who say they have a very unfavorable opinion. Wow. Now, interestingly enough, in terms of will this affect their market share and how much Disney makes, you have the inverse with Democrats. Now, it looks like for Democrats, the result was pretty much exactly the opposite. 61% of Democrats view Disney favorability and just 29% unfavorability. So, interestingly enough, I wonder how much this will do in the long run. Now, it looks like, let's see here. In March 2022, another poll conducted as Disney was in the middle of the high-profile fight with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis found the company in a very similar poor position. Republicans viewed Disney with nearly identical margin, 29% favorable, 64% unfavorable. The result for Democrats was 58% favorable and 29% unfavorable. Also closely mirror to what they found last week's survey. This was days after CEO Bob Chapek publicly chastised DeSantis for targeting the LGBT community. Then I was going to say, not correction, I actually just misread that. It was then CEO, because Bob Chapek is no longer CEO. Bob Iger came back to be the CEO of Disney. And ironically enough, when he first came back to Disney, he said, we're going to get out of politics, we're going to go back to being good old Disney, not controversial. And then, of course, they proceeded to lose about $2 billion on movies, which, again, this is a company that used to print money for a living, basically. I mean, it is astonishing how much Disney has changed. Growing up, again, I was very unusual growing up. I was still, as a child, interested and fascinated by business trends and business in general. They used to be considered a blue chip stock, as close to a sure bet as you could possibly get. You knew you weren't going to get rich overnight. It was just a consistent stock that would grow over time. I mean, usually tech stocks, especially, you kind of have ups and downs. You're seeing this with Rivian and Lucid, with even Black Rifle Coffee. A lot of these companies, they're a lot more precarious. It's a lot more of a roller coaster. You have ups and downs. Disney was pretty consistent on going up. And then they decided to get into politics, which, again, you're going to go to the political spectrum. You got leftists, you got extreme right, left, middle. If you're going after that new audience of going more on the very left, you're going to get that audience. That's going to be maybe newer customers, but at the same time, you're alienating those on the right and the middle, because there are some people who just don't want to have politics injected into their films. They just want to enjoy some entertainment. So it'll be interesting to see, but more and more of these polls are coming out, and they're continuing to lean into the meme, as some might say, or in this case, lean into the trend. Now, it also noted that Disney has also highlighted this week by GLAAD, which I say D- for advertising, because it just sounds like happy. Like I don't know what that means. If you're not into politics, you don't know what that means at all. But it is an acronym, so they do get a little bit of retribution because I find acronyms fascinating. Now, GLAAD is the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation. Now, it looks like Disney was highlighted for including LGBT content into a 41% of its films in 2022, making it the second most LGBTQ inclusive studio, only behind Netflix. Which, again, they're making children material more often than not, which is why I think the United States, it's culturally speaking, it's a hot debate on when to introduce children to sexual themes and orientations. A lot of people say it's not appropriate at all. A lot of people say that's a parental discussion. That's why you shouldn't be pushing it into schools with indoctrination. And it is a controversial thing, whether people like it or not. It's a cultural debate. So by doing it, you're inherently going to alienate some of your audience. It's not 0%. And I would say, as this has become a political issue, you're going to alienate about 50% of your audience. Which, again, depending on what you do for a living, that's a very, very imprudent business decision. If you're someone who is like a water company, or you're making a product that everyone should be able to enjoy, like an old-fashioned Disney film, ideally, that's for the whole audience. You're going for the whole market. If you're someone like the Daily Wire or Black Rifle Coffee, where you're a politically oriented company, you're going more for the right side of the political aisle, well, then it makes sense for you to cover topics with that in mind, and you have those types of framing devices and have those types of conversations. That makes sense. Like the Daily Wire is a politically based media company. It makes sense for them to talk about politics. But Disney, there was no reason for them to lean into this. There's no reason at all to actually have these things in children's films and animation. But by doing so, they're alienating some of the market. And their stock has rewarded them accordingly. Which, again, stocks are very precarious in terms of they change on a minute basis. But we're just looking up Disney stock, which, again, it used to be a blue chip stock, as stable as... I was about to say, what's stable in the United States? As stable as the value of lead or ammo. It usually goes up over time if stored properly as well. Although, again, not financial advice. Now, looking at the 1-year trend, let's do the 5-year. Wow. Wow. So 5-year trend, and again, this might be, well, as soon as I publish this, the numbers are going to be a little different. But nevertheless, 5-year trend, they're down 26.35%. A quarter of the stock is gone. In the past year, it's down 12.84%. Got the year to date down 6%. In the past 6 months, it's down 17.73%. Of course, it wouldn't be American. It wouldn't be 17.76%. It's been a long time since they taught patriotism at Disney, needless to say. In the past, let's see here. In the past month, they are up 1.67%. That's some gains. Not really, but it is better than negative. In terms of like their 52-week high, their stock was $118 per share. 52-week low, $78 per share. And if you look at the finances of the company, let me see here. Another Gallup poll. But before we do that, look at the finances and the fiscal results of the company. Their media is terrible. Now, they're making a profit thanks to the Disney theme parks, especially overseas. They're exceedingly popular. In the United States, I have no idea how Americans could afford to spend $4 to $7 grand on those tickets and the whole experience. I was very, very fortunate as a child. We had a family member who actually worked. I believe Alberto he actually worked at a ticket counter, and he's able to get us friends and family discount, and we were able to stay with our family, so we didn't have to pay the hotel. But even then, our family had to grind it out and really save for that unique experience. Nowadays, the cost has ballooned so much, and the value you get, especially if you go to Disneyland right now, you have full-grown men, and of course, they don't suit up, as all men should. You have full-grown men at Disney in women's dresses, selling dresses to little girls, which again is a political, cultural topic of discussion and controversy that many people don't want their children to see, thereby, again, injecting politics and controversy into something that used to be for everyone. So there's lots of people going to parts of the United States. Their media in the United States, again, movies are losing about $2 billion collectively, and the streaming service Disney Plus is still not profitable, which is pathetic to say in and of itself, because just think of how much vast intellectual property Disney has. Quite a bit, yes. Pretty much most of the things that make people smile or happy throughout their lives, all that media was basically invented by Disney. They even went out and they bought Marvel and Lucasfilms. And yet they still can't make a profit on Disney Plus? That's almost an impressive amount of ineptitudes. And I understand when it comes to startups, and again, Disney Plus was a new initiative for them, it takes some time to get those things off the ground and to get to profitability, but given the vast amount of resources they had in terms of all that content, it's fascinating to see they still can't get to profitability. So it'll be interesting to see if they change their content in terms of making it less political, but I don't think they will given the trends. And again, their actions speak infinitely louder than words. In fact, a wise old saying used to be, your actions speak so great, I cannot even hear what you say. Now, in terms of more polls, it looks like a Gallup poll released last week found that nearly 80% of Americans think companies should avoid politics in general. That's up 52% the prior year before. Now, they also break it down and say that only 37% of Americans think businesses should take on a public stance on LGBT issues. Which, again, depending on what the company is doing, may or may not make sense. If you're a biomedical company thinking of a new therapy or new treatment for a specific disease, that may very well make sense. If you make pillows for a living, why the hell would you ever get involved in politics? It's beyond me. Again, rest in peace, My Pillow. Mike has lost a lot of market share, unfortunately. And that, I would also argue that is his personal opinion. But nevertheless, when it comes to actually the product and what you're putting on the product, what you're involving, I think a lot of Americans are kind of fed up with it. They want to go back to, remember, even sports balls games used to be uncontroversial. You don't have things injected into that. Nowadays, every 2 seconds you get a commercial on the ball screen. You get all that injected there. I think a lot of people are just sick of it. They want to unplug. They just want to have fun, enjoy a simple film or a simple cartoon. And I think less and less people are really politically inclined. And let me know in the comments, what's your feedback? Are you kind of fed up with all these companies taking stances and kind of awkwardly injecting political ideologies into things where it certainly doesn't even make sense? I mean, I'm not too surprised that Disney is just continuing to eviscerate market share and alienate more and more of their customers. Perhaps the only question is the demographic of the new customer sub base they're going after, is that going to increase great enough or at a rate fast enough to make up for the people they're alienating? Which, that'll be an interesting thing to see if it does, but right now, some might argue this belongs in the business blunder of the day, but it's sort of a long-term thing, and right now, Bud Light has the trophy for the business blunder of the century. It'll be interesting to see if Disney can catch up, though. Time, as I always say, shall tell. Thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. I know it's ambitious, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October, so if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, the comments are greatly appreciated, even if it's a critique. I appreciate that, because that's how I want to make the show better and better together. Also, a like click does help the channel out as well, and apparently with the YouTube algorithm, perhaps that'll help the videos get shared more and more. But also, equally as important, don't forget to please take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.